So I was taking a look at took my next trade on S&P. I took a setup on Nas as well, and I was looking at both of those for my bias. So we see it's already been taken out, but because it's showing us live price, but that previous month high was still intact. Um, this previous week's high was still intact as well. So we had a lot of buy side liquidity um, left for the market to go ahead and take. So we see price on this daily time frame just act like this isn't here. We have no clear data, right? We see our open was right there this candle. So boom, immediately we see, okay, previous day's high, that could have been a draw. Most likely this was in London sometime. Let's go down and look. Yeah, that was in literally Asia. So there's absolutely no way to capitalize off of that. Cool. This is still valuable data. Why? Because now this gives us a reason, a potential catalyst for us to go down and move to the opposite side of the day. Because you see, if price had just come up here and didn't take previous day's high and started moving to previous day's low, I would still be skeptical. Even though we failed to take one side and it looks like we're heading toward the other, and everybody that got in long is stopped out. I've been in situations like that before where we don't take out this side. It looks like, oh, we're definitely going to take out the other side. And we get in the setup and we go 75% of the way there. Then we consolidate. Then the next day opens and we flip back up to that buy side liquidity. So unless I don't take setups unless I expect price to follow through to the draw on liquidity. Because I don't want to. I feel like I'm getting lucky every time and I'm getting results that I can't replicate every time I close uh, at not a clear place in the market, just because it's a big enough number on my P&L. So at this point, we're looking for a move down to previous day's low. Cool, it's gone onto our 4 hour. We obviously don't have fair value gaps going that way yet, but we see at 10 a.m. we potentially could have formed a bearish for our fair value gap, and we already have a strong signal for bearishness. Three reasons at this point. Reason number one is what at this point is just a potential super previous days high because we don't know if price is going to sweep it or not. So potential super previous days high, disrespect of a 4 hour bullish fair value gap, and three at 10 will be the creation of a 4 hour bearish fair value gap. So very strong bearish intentions. So let's go ahead and fast forward price. Jesus Christ. Okay, press the wrong button. I'm tripping. And let's look at 4. And we see price actually does go ahead and make that mitigation at around 7 before that 4 hour fair value gap is created. So due to this, I didn't take an ST. I wasn't comfortable taking an ST. We go ahead and mitigate that 1 hour fair value gap. Or sorry, not a ST, a turtle soup. But you could have turtle soup this right here. Go ahead and mark off this 1 hour fair value gap. So now what we see is we have potential for this to be a breakaway, right? As we've mitigated a lower time frame for value gap, we've started to move away from that. But even still, I want to see some when I look for that time frame below expansion, like I want to see expansion. It doesn't have to be to corresponding liquidity. I just want to see movement, right? So if I'm looking to see if a 4 hour for value gap could be a breakaway or not, I go down to the 1 hour and see have we already expanded from a 1 hour for value gap. We disrespected one, we just mitigated one, and we started to move a little bit away from it. But that's not enough movement price wise or time wise. You see, that's just 20 minutes price. So, and due to the fact that we've got a 4 hour for value gap about to form in 30 minutes, probably just be better to hold off on that. So that 4 hour for value gap does end up forming. Go ahead and get that mitigation there. All right, so now ideally what I would want to see, you could turtle soup this. This is a beautiful opportunity for a turtle soup. I would do something like this. Go ahead and hop in there off that entry. See if we can trade. See if we can take that closest level of liquidity. Yeah, and that's exactly 2R. I definitely would have took that if I was in a risk position at the time to have taken that. I was really trying to manage my capital across a couple different pairs, across a few different pairs actually. So I was limiting my setups, but um, let's go ahead and look for a 15-minute or potentially a 1 hour ST. All right, so I actually did end up take. And sorry, I actually did end up taking this 1 hour ST. In my mind, at the time, I fully understood that price was about to form a 4 hour bearish red, a higher time frame fair value gap, and it was about to possibly retrace. But in my mind, I was like, doesn't matter what happens. We shouldn't, because of it. It kind of works the same way whether we're close or whether we're far from a target within a day. I was looking from the 4 hour perspective. If price does want to go down as previous day's low, because it's the middle of the day at this point, it's 10 a.m., we have to go ahead and do it now. Meaning we can't really get that deep of a sting into retracement. I mean, it can be as deep as it wants, but it just has to be fast. We can't spend that much time in this for value gap because price has an objective it needs to go ahead and take if it's going to do it. So that is the same way that it works when we're super close to a drawn liquidity, right? Where price is going to do it, it needs to go ahead and do it now because we're right there. It wouldn't make sense for us to play around. So that is why I was comfortable staying in that 1 hour ST. And now my stop loss, I don't know if it was originally here at this 1 hour swing high, but I do know at some point I went ahead and moved it down here, right to the open of that fair value gap. I know it looks small. Sorry. I know it looks small, but that is a fair value gap. And then there's also the fair value gap sequence of the fair value gap, the high of the fair value gap sequence. So very strong stop loss. And I do believe this was the only setup I caught that day, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we don't get a retracement into that. 15 doesn't matter. We don't have a 15-minute in. So yeah, that was the only setup that I ended up catching